Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the TLC Home Office AEP Recap and New Year Recommendation Training. This is the first in a lot of trainings that we're going to do in the first quarter in a series we're calling Marketing Momentum. So you should have gotten an email about that, outlining some of the great topics that we're going to get into with the sole purpose of teaching you strategies that maybe you don't already know, or if you do know them, maybe reinforcing some things about those strategies that are going to help you be really successful in your pursuit of getting in front of clients and making those meaningful relationships that can be with you for a very long time. So Natalie and the marketing team here at TLC, we wanted to put together an initial meeting here today to go over some things that we observed during the annual enrollment period. We're going to talk about some of the challenges. We're going to talk about some of the successes, and then we'll wrap things up with some recommendations that we think you might find useful as the new year gets underway. So if you're listening to this in a recorded version because you weren't with us live, I'm Dave Mullane here with TLC Insurance Group, and with me is Natalie Patterson. Natalie, how are you doing here today?
I'm doing amazing, and I'm very excited to kick this session off. I know it was a wild annual enrollment period in both Medicare and ACA, so we're very excited to be able to host this today, and I'm excited to have the discussion with you.
Yeah, I think it was, for us, probably one of the more challenging annual enrollment periods. All of the brokers that we work with, we care about them, right? We have relationships, and I feel like you and I have shared a lot through AEP and even recently that we did a lot of, damage control conversations, just reassuring people type conversations. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like and kind of how you maybe helped people get through some of the challenges that we're going to get to in a minute?
Let me start by saying I've been in the business since 2013. I know many people that I work with, they've been in the business for way longer than that. But personally, for me, this was the roughest AEP that I've ever went through. And here at TLC, we care about growth and success, but we care about our brokers also. And we want to see them be successful. And we know that the struggles we face, although are similar, they're not the same as the agents. So it puts us in a position where we are trying to look ahead. We are trying to understand what's happening in our market and strategize and adapt. And what comes with that is being able to provide encouragement when there's no clarity and being able to educate when sometimes there's no transparency. In addition to that, it's a role of support and encouragement. And I almost felt like a psychologist at some point because I know how emotionally and mentally draining it was. And I empathize with that because when we see people for who they are, we see the changes in the market, whether it's the major disruptions or a carrier stops paying our brokers, that hits us home. And we understand that that's incredibly impactful to their lives. So it was challenging for that. But at the same time, it was rewarding. When we look back on the challenges and we see the obstacles that many of these brokers have overcome, it's inspiring to see their resilience and their adaptability to the change and overcoming these things because it's life changing, both in a negative and positive way. But how do we pivot in an uncertain market to achieve that? And I think that many brokers, most of our brokers rather, did that very well.
Yeah, I would agree. Very recently, I wrote a little article on uncertainty and being a leader in times of uncertainty. And this is the second government adjacent industry that I've been a part of in my career. I was in public education where, with the stroke of a pen, the government just blew a wave of uncertainty through the entire educational sector. And everything that we thought we knew and were going to do was suddenly thrown out the door. And I see that happening in this industry too. And I think our role as leaders and encouragers and coaches and, people that interact with brokers every day is to be able to see with some clarity amidst that uncertainty and to be able to give people reassurance. I think you do that really well. I know you do that really well because you did that for me when I was a broker, and you do that for a lot of other people that we work with. That's something that we're going to continue to try to do together. And I think those in participation here in this session, we'll see that in some of our notes. So you and I put together this slide, and let's talk through some of these challenges. Anybody listening right now who's already a TLC partner and affiliate knows these, but I think for our own therapeutic purposes and for those listening, let's talk through some of these challenges and give a little bit of detail. So the first point here we had was sort of lack of clarity and transparency from the carriers. And I'll let you get into some specifics on this, but this is very, very common when institutions, which carriers are institutions, right? They're large businesses. They are reacting, right? All of these changes were not proactively planned by insurance companies. These changes weren't desirable, or even now are not desirable to insurance carriers. This is a reactionary response to legislation, in large part the Inflation Reduction Act and other governmental factors and regulations that have caused a ripple effect to transcend the industry. So with that, what did you see with clarity and transparency? Is it really the fault of the carriers? What do you think about that piece?
I would say from the top level and management, it's the fault there. But what I noticed is that many of the brokers were taking it out on the grassroots level broker managers, and really they're not getting the information they need from the top. What was frustrating for us as an agency, if you look at an agency level, typically we're having discussions about plan changes, disruptions, service areas, June and July. And we are planning first looks July. So that gives us the time to look ahead, strategize for the annual enrollment period, anticipate what's coming. And the last 2 years, we have not been able to do that. I will say 2 years ago, we watched the market, and many of you in Ohio, you know that we do our AEP kickoffs. And I'm telling Craig, I said, we cannot do this till September.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing other agencies, God love them. I've had conversations with many of them. They're doing them when we would usually do it mid-August. I'm like, this is not going to work. And we were right. It's just watching the market, engaging it, and timing the way that we try to put the information out there in a way that it's accurate. We did not want to bring brokers in August and get the first look. We wanted the final documents. We wanted the final benefits. So usually we were getting those in August, and now we're getting the first and second week of September, which provides little to no time for us as an agency, as well as our affiliate agency and agency owners, to plan for success for AEP. So there was no transparency on the service area reductions. There's no transparency on benefit structures, formularies, even down to the provider networks, because we did see a record number of provider contract negotiations going on during this time, with in an atmosphere where there's no SEP and there's no 5 stars. So what do we do with that? And again, I want to say that it's not the carrier's fault, but at the same time, I think that they're watching the trends and what's happening as a result of the Inflation Reduction Act. How can they pivot their benefits? But also, we have to remember that they're all in competition with each other as well. So one carrier does not want to release their benefits because they can still actively change them up until a certain point. So everybody wants to hold benefits to the last minute
Mm-hmm.
in order to have that competitive edge. So it was detrimental to a point to where we could not plan effectively. But again, looking ahead, those brokers who were able to follow us were able to still maintain growth and success because of other preparations. So clarity was not there, transparency was not there, and believe me, we kept our cool on the outside, but inside we were screaming. There were many carrier conversations going on during those times to prepare as effectively as we could, but it was detrimental, I would say, on many levels, and very frustrating.
Yeah, I think we all recognize what's causing the change. We all recognize the ripple effect because we're all answerable to someone, right?
Right.
We all have a boss. The carriers are answerable to their higher ups, and then ultimately they're both their members and their investors. However, there's such a thing as timeliness as you alluded to in what you just said, and in that clarity and transparency and not changing things beyond a certain date, I think is the most problematic piece. Arguably, we all want to be paid for what we do, and we should be paid for what we do. We provide an intangible service for our clients, and we just want clear communication and clear expectations. And I think that's something that we're going to continue to advocate for, which we'll talk about in a moment, right?
Absolutely.
So you mentioned broker limitations in our meeting. What did you see there? What do you mean by those two words, this AEP?
I would say the most notable would be the compensation. That was incredibly frustrating. And believe me, we do not agree with the fact that our brokers are not being paid. We've had those conversations. But looking at it from a high level and broker standpoint, you have to ask yourself, okay, I have a MedSup client who has a PDP and they call you for a review. Do you do the review for no compensation if you should change a PDP? Or do you push them away to enroll themselves? When you say, you know what, I'm not doing PDP reviews anymore, I understand that. Everybody has their own approach to this. Everybody has their own business mind and how they want to operate. And I respect that either way. But the brokers have to think, okay, if you send them away and say, call the carrier direct, this is the first thing I want to point out is that when somebody calls in, I know for a fact that there are carriers, when you call their call centers to enroll in a PDP, they are being encouraged to enroll them and push Medicare Advantage plans. So you're opening yourself up to risk of losing that Medicare supplement client to the carrier. But not only are you risking that to a carrier, but also another broker, because there are still brokers out there who are having prescription drug reviews, despite the fact that they're not getting paid on the MedSup or the prescription drug plan, in hopes that eventually either A, they're going to educate them on an Advantage plan and just sell the fact that it's a zero premium and a pay later type of approach for savings, or B, 1, 2, 3 years down the road, they are going to say, you know what, remember that time you talked to me about the Medicare Advantage plan? I think I'm ready to look at that. Or for the referral aspect of it. So there are still brokers out there that are holding these appointments, but each individual broker has to decide, do you take on that and not get paid, or do you push them away and risk losing them altogether? So that was frustrating. The other thing you're going to find is you have, like I mentioned before, the hospital and provider network disruptions, where we were in an atmosphere this year where there are no 5 stars. So you have people coming to you in October, November saying, I need to see my doctor for December, and I'm finding out they're no longer in network. That was a limitation that we faced to try to help navigate that. But we can change that into a positive. I know that we're talking about challenges, but all of those things could be big positives as well. But it all obviously it has given limitations to brokers in their growth to an aspect.
Yeah, I think you and I are both could probably be accused of being overly optimistic in most situations.
Very much so.
It
Yeah.
was frustrating to stack up the meetings that I had and to see how many of those were non-commissionable med supplement plans, because I've had them for 8 or 9 years. And then I did a PDP review and a plan change that I guided them through for no compensation. But like you said, I started to just, and it's on this slide, be very transparent with my clients about the fact that I was no longer being compensated for the service. I didn't tell them that to make them feel bad. I told them that to encourage them to advocate for the work that we do. And like you said, most of them would say, well, can we pay you? You know, and of course I would always say no, but I would say the one thing you could do to really help me is tell all your friends and everybody that you know that we're still taking care of you, even though the government plus the carrier in this situation is not providing us compensation.
Absolutely.
And boy, do they, right?
They do. I mean, you would have people come in and say, you know what, you took care of my friend
Yeah.
and you did what was right for them. And I trust you. You did what was right, although you were not being rewarded or compensated. And that speaks volume of character many times.
Yeah. One of the clients that I met with who our agency received zero compensation for, again, termed out on commissions for med subs in a PDP that's not commissionable, literally invited me last week. So I'm going on March 4th to to do a presentation for her church group of 65 plus women.
Wow.
And that in that moment paid me nothing, but taking care of her and doing well by her is going to open up the door to an entire new referral relationship for our agency.
Absolutely. It's long-term rewards.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the now, it's about the later and the potential for growth.
Per- Perfectly said.
Mhm.
It's the now and later of what we do. And it is challenging. And another challenge that we dealt with this year, probably the biggest year in my tenure in this industry, in these plan terminations and service area reductions. We know some of our brokers all across the country were impacted. What was your experience helping agents through that?
It was difficult. It was difficult to have the conversation with brokers. I had one, um, he lost close to 90,000 in compensation because the broker took, or the carrier rather, took it all, current and future compensation. And to hear that from someone and knowing the impact it has on their family is heartbreaking to me. And it's because, again, we care and we don't want to see that. We're all in it for growth. We want to continue to drive success. So seeing that impact on brokers can be crushing. But again, like you say, we have that innate want to be optimistic and provide encouragement, which is what we continue to do. And to see that broker make our Aruba trip because of production, because he took that and turned that into a positive and was able to grow, it it warms my heart to know that there was a solution there and that any optimism that we may have had or words of encouragement may have helped push him through that and be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Because when you find something like that out, that you have 3, 4, 500 clients that you're no longer going to be paid on, or it's a planned termination and you're thinking, man, I'm not going to see my family literally probably till January 1 because now I have to move all of these people to a plan. It's exhausting to even think about it. But at the same time, getting them to see the potential for growth, getting them to see the fact that, yes, you're not going to get to see your family, but you have to, for lack of better terms, what Craig always says, run the fastest and work the hardest, it's going to reward you at the end. So, yes, we were able to see brokers who had very large books of business that were just in absolute panic mode. And knowing the public's response, their members calling when they're getting the letters, it it was very frustrating. We understand why some areas weren't hit as hard as others. So it wasn't the same experience for all brokers, but there were brokers that in some cases did not even have an advantage plan to sell in their service area or had to move 4, 5, 600 people before January 1st. So it was chaotic. But again, on the positive note, that was a big challenge, but to see the reward at the end is huge. But again, that was a huge challenge.
Many stories just like that from our broker channel and all the people that we work with. And, it's another obstacle that you have to work through and find creative ways to turn it into an opportunity. And that's what we really try to do when we're encountering these situations. We have two more on this slide. There's certainly a lot more that we could talk about, but let's talk about the challenge of competition that we saw this year, that our partners saw this year, and how that was just another layer that we all had to face.
Well, I would say not our biggest competition because I don't see them as that, but the biggest pain we have are the call centers where we all know they're not compliant in what they do. But also it is competition because these people who are so inundated with appointments trying to change plans, they would tell me, Natalie, I have an appointment scheduled 2 days out. And literally the next day, they're calling me telling me, well, so and so already flipped me. I'm already enrolled in this plan. And it was very frustrating for brokers to schedule appointments knowing that they had something scheduled and then somebody else got to them. There was a lack of patience there. So that was a huge challenge. The call centers, and I would say just people out marketing and beating them to the punch, for lack of better words. It happened more often than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, it brings to light for me. I've been quietly working for about 6 months on a presentation that eventually we'll bring to the table, but really good when we get an initial client who's new to Medicare at helping them understand the basics of Medicare and then matching them with plans that meet their needs. I think our affiliates and we as agents were really, really good at that. But we're now at a point where in every relationship, no matter what it is, a business relationship, an agent to client relationship, a marriage, we have to define the relationship.
Mhm.
I don't know that we definitely do that in our interactions with clients. And so working on some resources for how we teach clients about what they're going to face for the entirety of their retirement as a Medicare recipient.
Yeah.
And how we're a part of that and some of these obstacles that they're going to encounter, the high pressure phone calls, the constant mailing, their neighbor telling them that they should be on the plan that their neighbor has because it's the best without knowing anything about their needs. We may have to be more educational on the back end of our sales interactions to make sure that people know what to anticipate. Just like in the chat, there's a comment from one of our agents that I work really closely with about this PDP piece. So we've assisted people or guided people towards the right PDP plans because for some carriers, we're not even contracted for those products anymore.
Right.
And the agent said, part of the problem is they forget that we're not even AOR for their ongoing issues. And that's it. And we have to educate them on that now that we're non-commissionable on most of those products or our contracts were terminated on most of the products. Here's the number for customer support.
Right.
If you have a need with that plan, most of the time you're going to have to call them. I can help advise you, but I can no longer interact with the plan. That's a huge change.
It is. And I don't think brokers do that enough. And like you, before I stepped into my role as national sales director, now senior VP, I have my own book that I still manage and people that will only see me. And I was very active in telling them, I'm not contracted with this. People are going to call you. They may door knock you, but know that that's not compliant. Know that I'm here and I'm not going to steer you wrong because I do not see you as a payday. I don't look at you and see dollar signs. I look at you and see a person with needs, someone that I have known and I work with, and I will always look out for your best interest. And this is my way of doing that. I'm enrolling you in this plan. I do not get paid on it, but this is what is best for you. No, it's not best for my bank account or the bank account of TLC, but it's what's best for you, and that's what I will always do. So those people calling you, they don't care about your current situation. They don't care about who you are as a person. They don't know your story, but I do, and I will always do what's in your best interest. And I think that brokers need to say that more because you will find that the retention and the amount of people that you lose on these cold calls will significantly decrease.
Without question. And I know it's really difficult. I'm actually trying to create an app for this, but I try to call my clients multiple times a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. It's a lot of work, but we all have a lot of car time.
Yeah.
And so I put them in my contacts, and then I have a list, and I can use Siri to say, call this person. Those little phone calls result, and we're going to talk about this more, but they result in a lot of retention.
Yeah.
Because we're building that relationship. And what you want to avoid is the once a year only check in and touch.
Right.
To me, that is a great reminder of like school levies,
Mm-hmm.
where the school would try to cater to the senior community, but only at levy time they'd have like 16 pancake breakfasts.
Right.
Those people know what's happening, so between mailings and phone call check-ins and little newsletters that you can create yourself and send out to your clients, those things go a long way to keeping them feeling like it is a relationship, not a transaction.
Correct.
All right. Last challenge that we're going to talk about briefly here. Something that I encountered a lot with the clients that I interacted with was a limited amount of formulary coverage this year compared to past years. Also, a lack of plans.
Oh, yes.
In my residential zip code, previously I had over 30 PDP options. Now I have 12. So I had many times where a client, I couldn't find a standalone drug plan or an MAPD that actually covered all of their current medications.
Right.
And so now we're looking at therapeutic alternatives. They have to go back to their doctor. or paying out of pocket if they really needed something.
Canadian pharmacies,
Yeah.
France.
Did
Yeah.
you hear a lot about that this year?
I did. And I didn't see many because I am trying to push my clients to some other people here at TLC that are fully focused on sales so I can give more attention to the brokers. But the ones that I did see are, I have an older client base. They've been with me for quite some time. And there were some that would come in with very chronic, conditions. They would come in with a lot of diabetic medications, very off the wall things. And I would say at least once or twice a day, I would run into a situation where there was not one plan that would cover a medication. And then when you find the alternatives and they're like, well, those didn't work for me. Now I have this. And then you have to walk them through, well, you have to get the exception, but it's not guaranteed. And let's see if Canada has it. Let's see if we can get you approved with, patient assistance. So it happened very frequently on literally a daily basis, which again, if you do not know how to overcome formulary limitations and know about how to identify patient assistance programs or utilize the Canadian pharmacy, I mean, that's, it could be very frustrating for the client and yourself. So, I mean, educate yourself on that if you do not know how. But yes, it was hard. It was difficult for the members because then they're back to the drawing board with their doctor saying, okay, well, we can select this plan because it covers most of my drugs. And then usually if we use Smart Enroll, you can print out the alternatives that are covered by that specific plan formulary. And then they have to take it back to their physician and it's a whole process. But I mean, it was definitely a big limitation and in a time where we want to be able to find a solution. Many times we couldn't find one that would be 100% solution, maybe
Yeah.
85, 90, 95, and that's okay to some extent if we have a solution, but it was frustrating for both us as agents and the members themselves.
Yeah, and I think that issue harkens back to, this idea of things sound good on paper, right? We're going to have an Inflation Reduction Act provision where we limit out-of-pocket drug costs for everybody on Medicare to $2,000 last year, $2,100 this year. But the downstream effects of that are now there aren't that many plans.
No, the carriers are getting killed by cost.
Yeah.
And then it not only impacts the formularies, it impacted the benefits themselves. So it was a trickle down effect. And when it impacts the formularies and down to the benefits, all the way down to the agents, which is why we're seeing these diminished or loss of compensation because they're trying to play catch up from the excessive expenses that are being placed on them for the 2025 plan year. So that's how we've arrived where we are in 26 with the landscape we're in, but I think we can only go up from here.
So let's talk. I know a lot of people will ask us, what is TLC doing, in the background on these issues? What are you doing to inform and advocate for agents? So let's talk about a little bit of that with our approach and some of the things that I know you and Craig and Chris and the whole team here feel are really important ways to proceed. So one thing you talk to me a lot about is, and I've been part of this year, is direct conversations and advocacy with the carriers. What does that look like? Why does that matter?
They're very difficult conversations. And I lead with that when I speak on a national level to a carrier representative. I tell them, you're not going to like what I have to say. But in any relationship, if you can't have the tough conversations, then why are we here? We have to be able to have the conversations that we may disagree on. We may not like what the other has to say, but at the end of the day, we're going to find a solution and move forward to achieve success and growth together. And that's what we're doing. And we did just that with many of the carriers. I will tell you, you're not going to see us posting on social media about it because we have, as an FMO NMA, a direct contract with these carriers. And many of them are agents, rather. Let's start there. Our agents have said, Natalie, you guys aren't saying anything about this. What's happening? Well, we're not saying anything about it because we want to be respectful of our alignment with the carriers because we have a contractual agreement with them. We do not want to be disparaging and we are not going to cause any panic or negative feelings towards them because next year they may come back roaring with success and great benefits. And we don't want that to be in the back of their minds that, hey, TLC was on there and allowing this. And again, I do not I'm not going to put down anybody who does. I think everybody has their own approach to how they navigate a circumstance like we're in today. But our approach is we are going to have the communication and conversation that's needed. We are going to have the conversations and say, this is where we see a problem. How can we overcome this? What can we do to partner together to improve the agent experience, to improve the member experience, and to advocate for growth and change in the future? And we've done just that. So, because we are quiet and you do not hear us openly saying it or posting it, it doesn't mean that we're not, because believe me, we've been across the table at a national level having these conversations, and we are working very closely with the carriers. And you and I, Dave, we've spoken to, I know it's the next bullet point, but we've even spoken to federal lawmakers to make our voices heard and have our own opinions. And again, it's frustration, but we are going to always advocate for growth and success mutually together, and to try to better the experience for our brokers. Because if the experience continues to go in the way that it is, I think that it's going to weed out a lot of the brokers that are in the market today, which could be a good and a bad thing. I'd like to see the call center shut down, which we're seeing a lot of them. They are losing their contracts. But again, we're advocating and having those conversations and always keeping our brokers in mind in those.
Yeah, and there's so many issues, with any governmental program that we need to be communicating about. Certainly one is some of these commission things that have happened, and especially some of the mid-season changes.
Right.
That's heavily problematic, but we've met with lawmakers on topics like the unavailability of, formulary coverage now for members, like the fact that when a large hospital network and a carrier are in contentious negotiations, our clients are put in the middle through marketing campaigns, and the fear factor runs rampant through the community,
Right.
asking for SEPs in some of those situations, and many, many other topics. So there's a lot of great advocacy work being done in the industry. There's organizations. I think all of the credible FMO, NMO, NMAs are actively involved in this conversation too, both amongst each other and with national entities, because this is our industry. This is how we all survive. So that advocacy is ongoing, and any of you listening to this should be involved in that some way, shape, or form as an agent.
Absolutely.
Be it letter writing, be it getting involved in organizations
Like NABIP.
like NABIP.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the most powerful resource that we have, and I know we have partners who have helped, and we've helped distribute surveys.
Mm-hmm.
Your clients are the most powerful resource that you have.
Mm-hmm.
I could meet with 100 lawmakers, but if 100 of our clients write personal letters to their lawmaker, and those start to stack up, that is paramount in this. So we're going to continue to work on that. I think something that I really love about TLC is how strategic everything is. There's a lot of thought that goes into everything, and that's something that you really can't see unless you're here. But looking at strategically planning on how to navigate these changes, trying to, yes, we are reacting,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're reacting because it's real time,
Right.
but strategically reacting. Why is that important?
Well, you have to watch the trends. It's not always talked about. So often when we're planning things, when we're training, we're communicating, and maybe it's uncertain or the transparency is there. We look at, okay, in the past when this happened, what what was the outcome? What was the approach of that carrier? Or like I said, in the case of last year, or I'm sorry, the year prior, hearing the tidbits and kind of side one-off kind of foreshadowing that the carriers were giving to know maybe when we would get the plan benefits. Hearing, hey, I was just on a call just Monday with a carrier saying, well, this star rating's 3.5%, and we know there's a lot of membership, but it's kind of killing us because we're not getting the funding. We're foreshadowing, thinking, man, I'm not really sure that that's going to be available in 27. So it's little things like that. And maybe where me personally, I'm an overthinker. So I pay very close attention to things that people say. So I can look ahead and think, all right, either they meant to say that to let me know that something's going to happen, or it kind of slipped, or they don't catch that we thought that. But sometimes we'll be in carrier meetings, and whether it's you and I or Craig and I, and we'll just write a quick note. Oh, they said 3.5 rating. This is what this means. So our wheels are always turning.
Yep.
And then we have to think, okay, well, how is this going to impact our brokers? What can we do to get them out there right now to plan for a big AEP? That's always top of mind. And I mean, that's why I say we used to have breaks. After AEP, we would stop. And now it's like it's year round, because after AEP is over, it's how we strategically planning for OEP, how we planning for lock-in, and then it's rinse and repeat. It's just an evolving cycle, but we have to continue to give the brokers the guidance, to give them a strategy to be able to navigate the obstacles, whether they're known or maybe they're unforeseen. But how do we adapt to that and continue to move forward for success and growth? That's our main goal.
Yeah, I think that's something that I see happening here all the time, and there's a lot of thoughtful planning, and these next two pieces on our slide are also from a thoughtful and strategic point of view. But when we share updates or when we communicate information about changes, really trying to be mindful about the fact that we don't want to share information until we verified it. I think a great example was what happened with the Heidi Fidi plans last
Oh
year,
my goodness. Yes.
especially in the state of Ohio with, some of the confusion and conflicting information that we received about that whole process. I remember you and I had marketing materials that we worked on with the team ready like a week after we got the information.
Right.
But then you kept getting conflicting guidance as we were trying to hone in on this. And we really pumped the brakes
We did.
for months, actually,
Mm-hmm.
because let's face it, a lot of this, when we're responding to change and trying to create resources for change or communicate change, it is crisis communication.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing you want to do in crisis communication is create fear by sharing information out that turns out to change a minute later. I got burnt on this really bad back in 2024 because I made the commission sheet for a large group of agents that I work with. And like 2 weeks later, that was when CMS changed the commissions.
Yeah.
Boy, I can get this out. I'm going to look like I'm on top of things. My agents are going to love having this as quickly as I can get it to them. And then now I have to write a retraction email and hope that nobody misses the retraction email and doesn't get the correct change commission.
Right.
That was a big deal, right? Because the first commissions released were those huge increases.
Oh, yeah.
And then that completely got undone and they backed it down to more of a normal commission increase.
Mm-hmm. And we received requests for this AEP. And I said, what do you mean? The commissions are changing almost every 24 hours. We're getting notice this carrier is moving down to 0. This one says if you do a lateral move to this plan that you're going to get paid, 50% less. There was literally no way to keep up with this AEP. I feel like every time we turned around or anytime I would get a phone call, I would just tell the carriers, well, just tell me the bad news now. Don't sugarcoat it. Just tell me. So sometimes, like you said, we can't keep up with some of the changes. So we try to postpone some of the resources and communication until we have full knowledge. And we're going through that right now in Ohio because we just found out some big changes happened at the end of December. And we're trying to learn how to navigate that. And we're talking to the carriers and they were blindsided by the state. And we're like just finding out about it the first week of January. And a change happened where people were termed and moved back to original Medicare, Medicaid, and PDP on 12/30. So, I mean, over the last 2 weeks, I've been in serious conversations with the carrier saying, what is happening? And I'm not going to communicate it until I get solid information from the carrier saying, this is what happened. This is how we can overcome it. This is what the position is. We won't do it because the last thing I want is to say, all right, guys, this is what you have to do. And everybody goes out and they communicate it, they market it, They waste their time only to find that that's not the right approach and that's not how it should be done. So, yes, we hear these things, we see them going on. And if we're quiet, it's because there's still too much uncertainty and there's lack of information to be able to communicate that effectively.
Yeah, and very often completely conflicting information,
Absolutely.
you know?
Mhm.
So our last one here is training, something that we did release our first quarter training schedule. We're doing almost 2 trainings every single week from January through March. When we get a little closer to March, we'll release our second quarter training schedule. But our training is deliberately different.
Mhm.
We are looking at things that typically the carriers don't train you on already, or other industry experts don't offer really good trainings for you on. It's really agent focused. There are some agency management type trainings that we're going to be doing, but a lot of it is, how do you grow your business? How do you interact with clients? How do you become an expert in the content that you know in order to be really successful at what you do?
I know that we're short on time, but I will say this. I know that being with TLC since 2013, it's been something that's been evolving for us. We've had probably the most rapid growth. To sit back and watch it, it's been life-changing to see. And I'll say the one thing, and I know that I've said this to you, is last spring, Craig asked me, what do we need? And I said, I need Dr. David Mullane because he is a former educator. And when I sit with him, I mean, David, you have just such an amazing way of communicating information in a very meaningful way and inspiring way that even I myself, I sit back and I'm like, I'm very jealous of that. So I was very excited to welcome you to the team. And the trainings that we have are much different from others because we are much different from some of these other big agencies. We all sell, we have all been in agents' shoes. We know the process, we know the obstacles, the trials, the tribulations, but we also know the successes. And we want to share that knowledge and those experiences with our affiliate agents and agencies because we can all learn and grow from that. I learn from you every day. I think that there's a mutual respect within TLC at an agency level, and we have a great respect for those brokers we work for. So I'm very excited to continue to build our training and our educational approach, and I thank you for that.
No, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to continue to help agents. And that's what it's all about. It's about learning on our end, finding the clarity, being thoughtful, being strategic. And a lot of my leadership teaching that I've ever done is all about listening.
Mhm.
I think you and me and people here that help agents routinely, like Jeremy and Jessica, it's listening to what agents say
Mhm.
is how we know what to give you in terms of training and in terms of learning. And so that's why that communication is so important. All good leading and good teaching starts with listening. And we thank you for communicating those concerns. And we really do. If we see something being asked over and over again, our whole team here, me and Natalie and Ryan and Katya and Jessica and others, we're going to go dive in and try to create you a resource if that becomes a repetitive issue.
Right.
All right. So, yes, there's challenges. Yes, there's turbulence. But just like turbulence in an airplane, if you can make it through the flight, there can be a great reward when you get to your destination. So,
Yep.
let's talk about some of the successes. And we probably have about 15 minutes left for those of you that are with us live, just to button up a few things. We want to talk about these successes and then give you a few things that we think would be helpful for you in January. But the biggest success is growth.
Absolutely.
And we saw that, right?
We had a record-breaking year. This was the biggest growth we've ever experienced. I think it was over 40%. When we look at sales year over year, this was record-breaking, and knowing the challenging annual enrollment period we had, that made the stress, the heartache, the chaos so worth it for me. Because when we know we grew, we knew our affiliate agents and agencies grew, and that's all we want. We want success for them. That's our main goal always. And not to go to the next bullet point, but it groups together to see these agents be able to retain their books and grow their books. I think it speaks volume to the resilience, to the perseverance that agents have, and their ability to adapt in an ever-changing environment. And that speaks volumes to about all of them, all of you who are listening. You guys did amazing. And I'm so proud of that because I know it was hard. I heard it. We all had the conversations, and you came out on top. So I'm very inspired and excited for what's to come this year. I think it's going to only get better.
Yeah, I actually think the adversity brings in many people the best out.
Yeah.
When you have a challenge to take on, sometimes you even surprise yourself and what you're able to do. And a lot of agents that I've worked with historically have again had incredible growth this year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to take the bait these days, isn't it? Like
It is.
media and social media, they cultivate exactly what we want to hear. So if we go down that rabbit hole of only looking at the negative things happening in the industry,
It's chaos.
yeah, it's chaos. And we can be stuck there because our feed is going to give us that over and over and over and over and over again. Where if we can break out of that and find the opportunity in the chaos, find the opportunity in the change, we can have the growth that we've seen for many of the people that we work with. And that's what makes us all get up and want to do it again, both the next day and in the new year.
Yeah, like I said before, and we've said it for the last 2 years, ever since we went to the NMA meeting in United Healthcare in Minnetonka, Minnesota, it's navigating the noise. So drown out the noise, focus on the task and situation at hand, and just move forward.
Yeah.
Do what you know you need to do, and drown out everything else. That's all you have to do. And I know that that's difficult. It's not an easy task, but you have to, or you're going to be held down and you're not going to be able to grow the way in which you want.
It's funny. One of my things that I do right now, because my son's a junior in high school, is I help coach his varsity swim team.
Mm-hmm.
And they have these new tech suits. They're swimsuits that cost between $400 and $500.
Wow.
And I always tell the kids, especially ones that can't afford it, I will guarantee you that you can buy that suit, and if the person next to you works harder than you, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing in this industry. If you succumb to the noise and you take your eye off of building relationships, some of the strategies we're going to get into on the next slide, doing what's best for clients, capitalizing on those relationships to get in front of their friends and family and grow those opportunities, you're going to lose. You're going to lose to the person who doesn't get distracted.
Right.
So there's a difference between awareness. Yes, we need to be aware of the things that are changing and how they can affect us and how they are affecting us. But at the same time, I mean, Marion put in the chat here, I don't even know what I'm going to get paid until I get paid.
Right.
That can be a reality sometimes in this.
Yeah.
But the fact that she knows that and is going to go work and get those commissions coming in later is kind of what you have to do. So we have a couple of things on here. I don't think we have time to get too deep on them. Retention and growth, I think we're going to cover that in the strategies, along with the development of lead generating relationships, client focused compliant practices. We saw a lot of that. But those second two bullets, retention and growth, development of lead generation relationships, we're going to touch those on the strategy slide because those are the things that we see working well for people.
Right.
And then adaptability, right? Our agents that carried on well,
Yeah.
were able to adapt.
Yeah. And they grew. They were successful. So I'm very excited to see that they were able to do that. And sometimes it takes a little bit of words of encouragement, but they did it. And I think that we've been pretty clear about that throughout the session. The adaptability and ability to overcome obstacles has been, it's been amazing.
It's kind of everything now, isn't it?
It's everything. You have to adapt to be successful.
So let's look at this slide that we put together. What continues to work? What do you and myself and the team here see agents being really successful with? You want to go ahead and talk about marketing for a moment?
Absolutely. So I know that we say this a lot, and sometimes I've had multiple agents say, Natalie, if I hear you say this one more time, I'm going to scream, but I'm going to say it. You can have these network disruptions. You can have all these negative things going on, but where you and I, David, and many of us here at TLC see it is opportunity. I'm sorry. It is. That's all it is. You have to market yourself in these times. You can sit back and have the greatest tech platforms. You can have all the AI tools, whatever in the world, but if you do not market yourself, you will get nowhere. So when you see a disruption, when you see an employer that is laying off or closing, and I just sent one to a broker yesterday. It said that there was a company closing and so many employees were going to be losing. And I sent this broker that I know is in the area and I said, you need to go out there tomorrow and you need to see how you can assist these people in transitioning to a Medicare or an ACA plan. So it's marketing yourself. Marketing yourself is everything. The more people who know who you are and what you do, the more your phone's going to ring. And that's what we're in the game for, is getting your phone to ring. That's our goal always.
Yeah, when you see the TLC leaderboard email, and I'll often have brokers ask me, well, how do those people do what they do? And I always say in trainings that I do on marketing, you have two options, and only two options. You either, actually three options. I guess there's three. You invest in marketing financially, and many of our top producing individuals do. They're investing in themselves. They're investing in strategies to get in front of other people. And then they're good at what they do. So that turns into their growth and their opportunity. But if you can't afford to do that, the other option is you invest your time.
Mm-hmm.
You invest your time creating employer group relationships. You invest your time building referral relationships. You invest your time creating relationships with value-based care providers and building relationships in those clinics and in those centers. You invest your time in cold calling every opportunity in a zip code and then moving on to the next zip code. And the only other option is you do both.
Yeah.
You invest your time and money. But if you're not willing to invest on one of those areas, the success isn't going to be there.
It's not. And let's point out that I will have people that want a marketing piece for every single thing they want to do. And that's great. But your biggest thing that you can market is yourself. How many times, I know you've done it, and I know I've cold called a union and closed it. We had no marketing pieces. It was our time invested. It was our communication and our ability to build a relationship, to connect with another person, to show our own value and how we're going to help create a better situation for the person on the other side of the phone, the other side of the desk, whatever the case may be. You could walk in with nothing. But if you look at that person with a human being to market who you are, your value, what you can do, and a solution that you may have to a situation they may have, whether it's an employer group who is losing their coverage for their retirees, or a provider network who's losing a contract. All you need is yourself and your worth and the ability to communicate and relate to others. That's it. You don't even need one piece of paper in your hand, just a business card. Sometimes not even that, just communication.
Yeah, we have a new agent that we work with, and he's Spanish speaking, and I'm on his third order of business cards in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
We got him 1,000, then we got him 2,000, and now we got him 5,000. Because everywhere he goes, he talks to everyone, and it's already manifested into a radio spot for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the radio twice a week. It doesn't cost him anything.
Oh.
He's been invited into housing facilities, churches, organizations, and this guy's only been at it 6 months, but he does that work. He pounds the pavement. He just introduces himself to people and tells them what he can offer within their specific, situation. So these are things that we're going to be training on. If you look at our marketing series that we're offering right now, we're going to get into these strategies. How do you approach different businesses? How do you approach different types of institutions in different pathways, like the financial sector, like the private practice sector? And it's interesting. In the chat, someone said, "What's his name? How do we follow him on social media?" He's not on social media. He's not posting about the things that he's doing. He's a new agent who's just out there pounding the pavement, introducing himself to people, giving his business card, and asking to help their clients or their patrons or their organization when it comes to these retiree healthcare benefits.
Building meaningful relationships. That's what it is. Person-to-person contact. And again, invest your time in educating yourself. Attend these trainings. Learn what we have to offer by not only our own experiences, but we work with thousands of brokers nationally, and we are going to teach you how to market yourself, whether that's to grow or it's to build your retention practices. That we'll cover all of that on our marketing session.
So last three things. Thank you for hanging in here with us for about an hour. We wanted to give you three takeaways, three easy things that you can do before the end of the month here that we know are good strategies. So number one, if you haven't already done so, send a retention letter to all of your clients.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of things would you include in that letter, Natalie?
It's so simple. It's first start out with gratitude. Thank them for trusting you with their healthcare needs and guiding them to find a plan, but also reminding them that if they change plans or maybe they're getting maybe their plan has a new name. We know Aetna changed their plan names this year. Let them know they may be getting a new card. Remind them to update it with the pharmacy, their providers, or any facilities that they may be going to, so you can avoid any mis-submitted claims. Because a lot of times they will not give that letter or that new card to a provider. They bill their old carrier, and then they get a charge, and then they pay it, and then they come in, and it just is a trickle-down effect. So reminding them that they're going to get a new card, reminding them that if they have a deductible that does restart January 1st, reminding them that you are an insurance broker, that you can help them with all of their insurance needs. So if they have an issue, whether it's a change in their circumstance of a prescription, a life change such as a move, maybe they found out a physician's not going to be in network, which we hear in SCP may be coming for that really soon, or just a claims question that you're available, have them call you. But again, most importantly, remind them about don't pick up the calls. Do not the fraud, basically the fraud warning. And the best thank you can get is a referral. Always ask for the referrals. People are willing to refer you. They're willing to refer your value, but if you don't ask for it, many of them forget. So at any point in time that you have communication such as that, always remind them the best thank you can get is a referral. It's as simple as that. That's all you need.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask us for templates for a lot of things. And yes, we could give you a template for a client retention letter, but the only downside of that, and those of you that know me have heard me said this often, like we don't want to take the you out of the equation.
Right.
Part of the reason people work with you is because they like you. And so they want to see your authenticity, your authenticity. They want to see the picture of your family on the letter. You know, when we send letters out and we don't put pictures of our family to our clients historically, they get mad that they didn't get that update.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they're part of us. And we would encourage you to do that too. Secondly, we're going to be having sessions, I believe, next week. I don't have them all memorized, but we're going to be doing sessions on how to do a business and marketing plan. If you don't have a plan, I strongly encourage you to attend those sessions or to follow up and watch the video on our Agent Hub site after the fact. Keep in mind in this industry, I learned this the hard way my first year. If I'm planning for AEP in September, I am 10 months too late.
Absolutely.
Right? This is an 8-month at least ahead of time planning industry. If I'm marketing turning 65 2 months before, and in this day and age, I'm probably a year too late.
Mhm.
You have to start to adapt that vision. If you don't already have it, we'll help you do that in those sessions to have that long-term vision. The things that you do today result in business 8, 10, 15, 16, sometimes 24 months down the road. Lastly, we have a little challenge for you. And those of you that are here live, especially, I have the list. I would love for you to tell me that you did this.
Mm-hmm.
If you do, I'll celebrate you in our agent Facebook group. Go out and secure at least one new referral source before the end of the month.
Absolutely. It's very simple. People overcomplicate it. And for those of you who are new, because I know that we have some newbies on here, referral sources could be where you worship. Speak to your church, speak to your property and casualty agent who does your car insurance if you're not doing it already. But if you are a broker that doesn't, speak to them, an estate attorney, a physician's office, a dentist. I mean, they're everywhere. An employer group. Where does some of your people, where did your parents retire from? Where did you retire from? There are some people on here that this is their second gig.
Yeah.
Go out and just talk to people. Referral sources are literally everywhere. That could be, just look up everywhere around you in your community. If you're on an appointment and it cancels, we had this conversation earlier, don't just go home. On your way home, look around you. Where can you find more business in that location? Business opportunity is everywhere. So just go out and find it. You just have to do the work and build the relationship.
There's an agent on our webinar right now. I hope he's listening because I want to just compliment him. When I first started working with him, we spent a little bit of time together door knocking. It wasn't even an hour in where he just took it over. And he was willing to go into places that I'm like, I don't even know if I want to go in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was this transportation company, and I kid you not, the office was full of smoke.
Mm-hmm.
The people working there were just smoking heavily. It looked like a casino, like back in the 90s. He went right in there and started talking to him. And that's what it takes. It just takes that desire to build relationships.
Right.
It doesn't sound, I know we make it sound easy, and for some people it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of you that are charismatic and you like to talk to people and you like to build relationships, you just have to go do it. You have to go talk to them and try to learn a little bit about who you're going to go talk to, and try to learn how you can benefit them. That's the key. If I'm going into a doctor's office, what value do I bring? Well, there's a lot, right? If I meet with their clients that are confused about the network or their plan changed, I'm now helping that office by trying to find a plan that keeps that patient coming to them long term. And we can think about that little hook in every single situation. It's how can we help that entity by helping their clients? And the best part is all of our services are at no cost.
Absolutely. And you can assist them as a free or complimentary service from that employer or provider or maybe a state attorney. It doesn't matter. You're doing it on behalf, like it's something they are bringing you in as a service. So you're making them look amazing just from something that you're really benefiting from, and they had to pay nothing for it. So again, you're right. It's not easy for all. It's easy for you and I to say it because we love connecting with people. Some people it's a little bit harder, but be courageous. You are not going to grow by staying comfortable. You have to step outside your boundaries. You have to feel uncomfortable in order to grow. And once you achieve that, let's say you're not a person that likes to approach people. Believe me, let's have a conversation. Let's talk through it and see how we can get you out there. And the first time you secure this, when you talk to us on February 1 and let us know how many referral sources you have secured, you will feel like you have just conquered the world and you've had a great achievement. So you can do it. If you're feeling like you can't, speak to David or I. We're happy to have a conversation and provide some tips, words of encouragement, all the above. But you have to be uncomfortable to grow.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks to all of you that are listening live. And if you're watching this after the fact and you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Natalie, thanks for your time here today. And if you're available next week, check out our training schedule. We have 2 great trainings for next week. We'd love to see you all there. And thank you for being TLC partners and affiliates.
Yes, thank you.